In this alternate timeline, Anakin Skywalker still falls to the dark side, but not because of Palpatine's manipulation. Instead, his inner fears, anger, and disillusionment with the Jedi Order push him down the path of becoming a Sith Lord on his own terms. He forges his own philosophy of the dark side, independent of the rule of two, and reshapes the galaxy in his image. Anakin Skywalker was once the Jedi's greatest hope, a man of light who fought with unmatched courage. Yet even without the whispers of Chancellor Palpatine, his doubts and fears began to grow. He looked at the Jedi Council and saw only mistrust. They refused to see his strength, and their endless rules felt like chains holding him back. At night, Anakin dreamed of Padme Amidala, his wife, crying out in pain. He saw her death in visions that would not leave him. The Jedi offered no answers, only lessons of patience and letting go. But Anakin could not accept this. He searched the archives, reaching into forbidden Force knowledge the Jedi had hidden away. There, he found teachings of the dark side, not from a master, but uncovered by his own will. The more he studied, the more he believed the Jedi way was broken. They denied love, they denied passion, yet those were the things that gave life meaning. He declared that their code was weakness. From that moment, Anakin chose a new path. He would become a Sith Lord, not a servant, but the master of his own destiny. When Obi-Wan Kenobi confronted him, Anakin did not hide. He told his old friend that the galaxy needed order, and only he had the power to bring it. Obi-Wan pleaded with him to return, but Anakin's heart was set. Their battle shook the stars, a clash not of master and apprentice, but of two brothers torn apart. Padme tried to reach him, to remind him of the man he once was. For a time he listened, but his fear of losing her twisted into an obsession with control. He could not see that his very grip was what pushed her away. Her heartbreak became the wound that sealed his fall. Anakin no longer answered to the Jedi or to any Sith tradition. He gathered others who had lost faith, creating his own dark order. The galaxy was torn apart as Jedi, Republic loyalists, and Anakin's followers waged war. No one was safe as battles raged from world to world. And in the center stood Anakin Skywalker, self-crowned Sith Emperor, ruling not through wisdom but through fear. His dream of peace burned away by his own pride. Anakin Skywalker was known as the hero of the Republic, a Jedi Knight of unmatched skill. Yet behind his strength burned a storm of doubt and fear. He had visions of Padme's death, shadows of a future he could not accept. Without Palpatine's whispers to guide him, Anakin turned inward, seeking forbidden knowledge of the Force on his own. The Jedi Council refused to help, warning him that attachment clouded judgment. Their cold rejection only deepened his frustration. Anakin began to believe that the Jedi had grown blind, clinging to rules while the galaxy suffered. He vowed that only by embracing his emotions could he gain the power to protect those he loved. In secret, he studied ancient texts buried within forgotten archives. There he discovered fragments of Sith philosophy, not as a servant to an old master, but as a path he could shape himself. He no longer saw the dark side as corruption, but as freedom. When Obi-Wan confronted him, Anakin did not deny his path. He told his former master that the Jedi were weak, slaves to a broken code. Obi-Wan pleaded with him to turn back, but Anakin's conviction was unshakable. Their bond cracked, leaving only sorrow between them. Padme tried to reach him, but Anakin's desire to control the future pushed her away. He dreamed of building a new order, one where no one would suffer, yet his every choice drove him closer to tyranny. Without Palpatine, there was no empire in his name. Instead, Anakin crowned himself a Sith Lord of his own making. He gathered disillusioned Jedi and outcasts, forging a new brotherhood of darkness. The Republic splintered under his rebellion, and the galaxy was torn between three forces: the Jedi Order, the Republic loyalists, and Anakin's rising Sith Empire. Worlds burned as Anakin pursued his vision of peace. He became both savior and destroyer, a figure of legend feared across the stars. The boy who once dreamed of freeing slaves had enslaved himself to his own pride and fear. And so Anakin Skywalker, without Palpatine's hand to guide him, still fell to the dark side. But this time, it was by his own will. What if Anakin Skywalker had become a Sith Lord without the influence of Palpatine? The young Jedi Knight was already restless. The Council still treated him with doubt, never granting him the full trust he believed he deserved. His heart ached with visions of Padme dying in childbirth, visions that haunted him every night. With no mentor whispering answers, Anakin began searching through ancient archives, chasing forbidden texts hidden deep within the Jedi Temple. The more he read, the more he became convinced that the Jedi had blinded themselves. They denied attachment, they denied fear, they denied love. To Anakin, these were not weaknesses but sources of strength. He began to believe the Jedi were not protectors of peace, but jailers of the soul. When Obi-Wan Kenobi sensed this change, he tried to reach his friend. One night, under the fading light of Coruscant, Obi-Wan confronted Anakin. But instead of secrecy, Anakin spoke openly. He admitted he had discovered a new path, a power that could save Padme and bring order to the galaxy. He pleaded with Obi-Wan to stand beside him. But Obi-Wan, bound to the Jedi Code, could not. Their bond began to break. Anakin, no longer guided by Palpatine, refused to take the title of Darth Vader. He declared himself a Sith Lord of his own making, casting aside the old rule of two. He would be the first of a new order, a Sith Emperor born from his own will. Padme tried to support him at first. She wanted to believe in her husband's dream. But as Anakin grew harsher, speaking of controlling the Republic and bending worlds to his vision of peace, fear filled her heart. She began to see the man she loved slipping away. Without clones obeying Order 66, Anakin himself led the assault on the Jedi. Fallen knights, disillusioned with the Council, joined him. The Republic splintered. A three-way war erupted across the stars. Jedi fighting to survive, senators clinging to the Republic, and Anakin's new Sith rising to claim the galaxy. The boy once called the Chosen One stood on the ruins of the Republic Senate. His eyes burned with fire. He believed he had saved the galaxy. Yet, in truth, Anakin Skywalker had become the greatest enemy it had ever known. Anakin Skywalker was always a man torn between love, duty, and fear. Without Palpatine whispering promises of forbidden power, his fall still came, but it was born from within. He watched the Jedi Council grow colder toward him, dismissing his abilities and denying him the trust he craved. Their rigid code suffocated him, and in his heart, he began to believe they were holding him back from reaching his true potential. Night after night, Anakin dreamed of Padme dying in childbirth. With no mentor to guide him, he sought ancient texts and hidden teachings, venturing into knowledge the Jedi forbade. He discovered fragments of the Sith, not as slaves to the rule of two, but as beings who embraced their emotions and shaped destiny through will alone. Anakin forged his own path, declaring himself a new Sith Lord without a master. He refused to take the name Darth Vader, for he would not be another man's shadow. He believed himself chosen by the Force to create a new order, one that balanced passion and strength with the promise of security. When Obi-Wan Kenobi confronted him, Anakin did not hide. He spoke openly of his vision, urging his former master to join him. But Obi-Wan saw the danger and refused. Their clash was not the echo of Palpatine's schemes, but the collision of two brothers divided by belief. Their duel was fierce, filled with grief, love, and rage. Padme tried to reach him, her voice trembling with hope. Yet Anakin's hunger for control consumed him. He swore to protect her, but in seeking power to stop her fate, he drove her away. She could not follow him into darkness, and the weight of his obsession broke her spirit. With Padme lost, Anakin declared war on both Jedi and Republic. He gathered fallen Jedi and disillusioned soldiers, forging an army loyal only to him. No clone orders, no puppeteer, only his will commanding a galaxy divided. The Republic fractured, the Jedi hunted, and the stars burned with endless conflict. Anakin Skywalker, self-made Sith Lord, ruled as emperor of his own creation. His dream of peace twisted into tyranny, not because he was deceived, but because he could never escape his own fear of losing everything he loved. Anakin Skywalker stood at the edge of the Jedi Temple's Grand Hall, his lightsaber ignited, glowing with dangerous brilliance. His eyes no longer held the calm of a Jedi Knight, but the storm of a man who had chosen a darker path. Obi-Wan Kenobi entered, his steps heavy with sorrow. He had felt Anakin's change long before this moment, but now the truth was undeniable. His friend, his brother, was no longer the man he once knew. "Anakin," Obi-Wan said gently, his voice carrying both plea and command. "This is not the way. You're lost in your fear. Come back before it consumes you." Anakin's jaw tightened. "Fear? No, Obi-Wan. The Jedi taught me to suppress what I feel, but that was their lie. My love, my anger, my need to protect, they're my strength. I don't need the council. I don't need their chains." Obi-Wan took a step closer, his hand not yet reaching for his weapon. "You're stronger than this. You're letting the darkness shape you. The Anakin I knew would never abandon those he swore to protect. The Anakin you knew is gone." Anakin answered, his voice low, filled with conviction. "I see now that the Jedi only cling to weakness. I will create a new order, one that embraces power, one that does not fear attachment. Stand with me, Obi-Wan. Together, we can bring true balance." For a moment, silence filled the hall, broken only by the hum of Anakin's blade. Obi-Wan's heart ached at the offer, but his answer was clear. "I cannot. To follow you would mean betraying everything we swore to defend. If you truly walk this path, then you are my enemy." Anakin's expression hardened, the last trace of hesitation vanishing. "Then you will not stand in my way." Their lightsabers clashed in a blinding storm of sparks. Brother fought brother, hope against despair, love against rage. Each strike carried years of trust, friendship, and betrayal. The galaxy itself seemed to tremble as Anakin and Obi-Wan's battle began, a duel not just of blades, but of ideals. Two men fighting for the soul of the future. Anakin Skywalker stood in the council chamber, his eyes burning with frustration. The Jedi Masters debated endlessly, yet no action was taken to bring true peace. He clenched his fists. The Republic was crumbling, and the Jedi hid behind rules and traditions. "I can end this war," Anakin declared, his voice echoing through the room. "But you will not let me." Mace Windu rose, his tone sharp. "You are blinded by arrogance, Anakin. Power does not bring peace. Discipline does." Anakin shook his head. "No, Master Windu. Power is the only way peace can survive. If the Republic had true strength, the Separatists would have fallen long ago." The Council dismissed him, and that dismissal was the breaking point. That night, Anakin looked over Coruscant from Padme's balcony. The city's endless lights seemed dim compared to the fire inside him. He knew he could not rely on the Jedi, nor the politicians who bickered while soldiers died. "If they cannot bring order," Anakin whispered, "then I must." Padme touched his arm gently. "Anakin, don't carry this alone. You're only one man." He turned to her, his eyes filled with conviction. "One man can save the galaxy, Padme. I see it so clearly. The Senate is weak, the Jedi are blind. I will take control, not for myself, but for everyone." Padme's heart ached. She saw the boy she loved becoming someone else. Yet his words carried a strange, dangerous hope. Within weeks, Anakin gathered allies from within the Republic Army, captains and generals who believed the Senate had failed them. He spoke to them with passion, not as a Jedi, but as a leader who promised victory. The soldiers began to follow him. Senators who were tired of corruption pledged loyalty. A movement was born, not under Palpatine's hand, but under Anakin's vision. The galaxy felt the shift. The Jedi sensed the darkness rising, but could not stop it. Anakin had broken from both the Council and the Senate. He was no longer a servant. He was becoming something greater, something far more dangerous. Anakin Skywalker, once the chosen one, now prepared to crown himself as the savior and ruler of the Republic. Anakin Skywalker had always believed that love was his greatest strength. For years, Padme Amidala had been the light guiding him through battle, fear, and doubt. But as his visions grew darker, as the shadows whispered of her death, his heart filled with fear. He searched through forbidden texts, desperate for a way to keep her alive. No one pushed him toward the darkness. He chose it himself, step by step. At first, Padme tried to understand. She saw the pain in his eyes, the restless nights where he reached for her hand as if she might vanish. She begged him to trust her, to trust their bond, to believe that together they could face whatever fate awaited them. But Anakin's fear had become stronger than her words. When he finally confessed his new path, his voice trembled with both love and fire. He told her the Jedi were blind, that only by embracing all emotions, anger, love, even fear, could he protect her. He swore that he would conquer death itself. Padme stepped back, her heart breaking. She did not see the protector she loved. She saw a man who was willing to chain the galaxy to keep her safe. Her voice cracked as she told him, "Anakin, this isn't you. I cannot follow you down this path." That moment was the wound he could never heal. He reached out, begging her to stay, but she turned away. The fear of losing her, of being powerless again, burned into his soul like fire. Padme tried to believe there was still hope, but the man she loved was slipping further away. Each time they met, his eyes carried more darkness, his voice more anger. The warmth between them faded, replaced by silence and sorrow. In the end, it was not war or violence that claimed her life. It was despair. The sight of Anakin becoming a Sith, of abandoning everything they once stood for, was too much for her heart to bear. She faded quietly, leaving him with the one thing he had feared most, her absence. Anakin stood alone, consumed not by Palpatine's schemes, but by the choices he had made himself. His greatest love had become his greatest loss. What if Anakin Skywalker became a Sith Lord without Palpatine? The galaxy would still tremble, but in a very different way. Anakin's doubts about the Jedi would only grow stronger with each mission. He would feel their rules holding him back, their lack of trust cutting deeper than any wound. His visions of Padme's death would haunt him, and with no one offering him false promises, he would turn to the darkest corners of the Force on his own. He would discover ancient texts, long forgotten in the Jedi archives, knowledge of the Sith that had been hidden for centuries. Anakin would not seek a master, for he believed he needed none. His power was his own, his destiny his own. He would forge a new identity, not Darth Vader, but something of his own creation, a Sith Lord free from the rule of two. Obi-Wan Kenobi would see the change in him. Their bond, once as close as brothers, would crack under the weight of Anakin's pride. Obi-Wan would beg him to turn back, to let go of his anger, but Anakin would only see weakness. The Jedi, in his eyes, had betrayed him, betrayed Padme, and betrayed peace itself. Padme would try to reach him, her love unshaken even as she feared the darkness consuming him. For a time, Anakin would listen. For a time, he would dream of ruling the galaxy by her side. But his hunger for control, his fear of losing her, would push her away. She would see not the man she loved, but a stranger wearing his face. Alone, yet unbroken, Anakin would gather others who shared his anger at the Jedi. Fallen knights, exiled warriors, and Force sensitives with no place in the Republic would rally to him. He would promise them freedom, but bind them with fear. This was the birth of his own Sith order, not guided by tradition, but by his vision of strength and order. The galaxy would soon be torn apart, not by Palpatine's empire, but by Anakin Skywalker himself, a Sith Lord born of his own choices, his own pain, and his own unstoppable will. Anakin Skywalker no longer walked in the light of the Jedi. Without Palpatine guiding him, his fall came from his own heart. He had seen the flaws of the Jedi Order, their endless rules, their constant mistrust, and their blindness to the suffering of the galaxy. Anakin decided he would no longer serve them. nor serve any master. He would build something greater, a new path through the Force. When Anakin declared himself a Sith Lord, he did not whisper it in secret halls. He spoke it openly before those who doubted him. He rejected the ancient rule of two, saying the galaxy did not need shadows. It needed strength. His strength. Many young Jedi, tired of the Council's strict code, began to listen. Some followed him, believing he offered freedom. Anakin formed his own Sith order, not bound by tradition, but driven by his vision. He promised his followers that together they could end war, end weakness, and bring peace through absolute power. These promises carried weight, and soldiers, smugglers, and even senators bent their knee to him. The Jedi Council, horrified, declared him an enemy. Yet they were not prepared for his power. Anakin led his new Sith against Jedi temples across the stars. These battles were not the sudden strike of Order 66. They were open wars, raging from the core worlds to the outer rim. The Republic itself fractured. Some leaders stood with the Jedi, defending the old ways. Others sided with Anakin, believing his strength would end the endless clone wars. And still others tried to stand apart, caught in fear of both sides. Obi-Wan Kenobi faced the hardest truth of all. His brother, his friend, now stood as a conqueror. He confronted Anakin again and again, but Anakin no longer listened. He saw Obi-Wan only as another obstacle, another relic of the weak order he had cast aside. The galaxy now burned in a three-way war, Jedi against Sith, Republic against itself. Anakin Skywalker, once the chosen one meant to bring balance, had become the storm that shattered it. His new Sith order rose from the ashes, and the fate of every world was caught in his shadow. What if Anakin Skywalker became a Sith Lord without Palpatine? Anakin was already restless within the Jedi Order. The Council's endless rules, their mistrust of him, and their refusal to share forbidden knowledge created deep cracks in his loyalty. He dreamed of Padme dying night after night, and no one offered him answers. With no Palpatine to whisper false promises, Anakin turned to ancient archives, searching for lost texts that spoke of life, death, and power beyond the Jedi's reach. He grew convinced that the Jedi were wrong to reject love and fear. To him, emotions were not weakness but strength. If the Jedi could not see that, then he would walk his own path. Anakin began to experiment with the dark side, shaping it to his will without a master to guide him. He no longer needed to obey the rule of two. He would be the first of a new Sith order, forged from his own vision. Obi-Wan noticed his change. He confronted his friend, begging him to return. But Anakin stood firm, declaring that the Jedi were blind, that peace could only come if someone strong enough ruled without compromise. Their bond cracked, and their friendship turned into a painful rivalry. Padme at first tried to stand with him. She loved Anakin and believed he could still be saved. But as he spoke more of control and power, she saw a shadow swallowing the man she once knew. Her heart broke as Anakin slipped further away, consumed by his obsession to protect her. Anakin gathered followers, fallen Jedi, and disillusioned warriors who believed in his promise of order. He crowned himself as Sith Lord, not as an apprentice, but as a ruler. The galaxy was torn into three: the Jedi who fought to survive, the Republic still clinging to its crumbling systems, and Anakin's rising Sith Empire. The Jedi purge came not through Palpatine's orders, but by Anakin's hand alone. He fought to burn away what he saw as weakness, leaving only strength. Yet the peace he promised never came. War spread wider, battles fiercer, and worlds fell into chaos. In this new future, Anakin Skywalker became not the servant of another, but a master of darkness, shaping the galaxy into fire and shadow by his own will.